Most people treat the minimum payment like a safety net, a gentle option, a way to keep your head above water. But the minimum payment isn't a safety net, it's a leash. It's one of the most powerful financial behaviors ever engineered because it turns a short-term problem into a long timeline. And in finance, time isn't neutral, time is the asset. Here's the hidden rule. The system doesn't actually need you to fail. It needs you to continue. It needs you to stay alive inside the obligation month after month because your future cash flow is worth more than your one-time payoff. The system can weaken you, but it won't necessarily destroy you, not right away. This pattern is older than credit cards. In every era, the most profitable debt wasn't the kind that crushed people instantly. It was the kind that kept them paying for years. Ancient societies used debt to claim land and labor. Medieval systems used obligations and penalties to keep peasants locked into predictable extraction. Modern consumer finance simply refined the same idea with math, automation, and psychology. The minimum payment is the modern version of that pattern, extraction through time. So let's break down how it works, clearly and in detail. On a credit card statement, the minimum payment is usually calculated as a small percentage of your balance, plus any fees and interest already charged. In other words, the minimum payment is designed to cover the cost of keeping your debt alive, not to kill the debt. That's why when you only pay the minimum, most of your payment goes to interest and fees first. The principal, the actual debt, barely moves. And here's the part most people never fully see. The minimum payment isn't simply a smaller payment. It's a schedule that rewires your future behavior. Because it does three things at the same time. First, it reduces today's pain. You feel relief. You avoid default. You stay in the game. Second, it stretches the timeline. And the longer the timeline, the more total interest you end up paying. Third, it turns your debt into a predictable stream. And predictable streams can be modeled, packaged, and priced. In other words, it runs perfectly as a system. That's why lenders love minimum payments, not because you're weak, but because the design turns millions of small monthly payments into stability for the institution. Now let's make the trap visible with simple numbers. Imagine you have a 5,000 balance at 24 APR. Roughly speaking, that's about 2 per month. If the minimum payment is around 2 of the balance, you might pay about 100 at first. But if your interest charge for the month is also about 100, then your payment doesn't reduce the principal at all. You're not paying down the debt, you're paying rent on it. You keep the debt alive, and the system stays fed. Even if your payment is slightly higher than the interest, the principal reduction is still tiny. Which means you can pay for years and still watch the balance sit there, stubbornly refusing to disappear. That's not bad luck. That's the formula doing exactly what it was built to do. Now add real life, a late fee, a new purchase, a month where you can't pay extra. Any one of those can reset your progress. The clock stretches again. That's why minimum payments are dangerous even for disciplined people. The system is built to accept your discipline and then monetize the moments when you're human. Here's another hidden layer most people never learn: payment allocation rules. If you have multiple interest rates on the same card, banks often apply your payment in ways that protect their yield. Frequently, the minimum payment covers the cheaper portions first, while the higher interest portions keep generating charges in the background. Regulations and policies can vary, but the principle is consistent. The system tries to keep the expensive part alive for as long as possible. So the trap isn't only in the size of the minimum payment. The trap is also in how your payment gets used. Now step back and look at the power side of the equation. When millions of people carry revolving balances, institutions gain three kinds of power. Cash flow power, steady monthly interest revenue even in weak economic periods. Pricing power, higher APRs during rate hikes, penalties for late payments, and fee structures that grow precisely when people are under stress. Behavior power, borrowers become predictable. Borrowers become cautious. They avoid risk, they avoid switching banks, they avoid disruption. And a trapped person is easier to manage than a free person. That's one of the system's core games. This is why the minimum payment trap isn't just personal finance, it's social architecture. So what do? You don't beat the system with motivation. You beat it with structure. Step 1. Stop thinking in minimum payments. Start thinking in payoff dates. Pick a target date, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, whatever is realistic. Then calculate the fixed monthly payment required to hit zero by that date. A fixed payment flips the timeline. It makes time work for you instead of against you. Step 2. Automate the fixed payment, not the minimum. Minimum payment autopay is the bank's favorite feature. Fixed payoff autopay is your weapon. Step 3. Prevent the behaviors that extend the timeline. Don't make new purchases on the same revolving balance until the old balance is gone. If you keep adding new charges, you're building a treadmill that never stops. Step 4. Protect yourself from fee resets. Late fees and penalty pricing are timeline weapons. Put due dates on your calendar. Turn on alerts. Keep a buffer in your checking account so a surprise hold or a pending transaction doesn't trigger a domino effect. Step 5. If the debt is too heavy, don't chase tricks. Choose a clean restructure. Balance transfers only help if you can pay the debt off before the promo ends. Consolidation only helps if it shortens the path to zero. Any option that lowers your monthly payment while extending the total timeline usually isn't relief. It's an extension. And now the core lesson, the historical pattern. Empires didn't grow only by conquering land. Many grew by controlling obligations. A society where people owe, and owe slowly, is a society where future labor has already been claimed. The minimum payment is a micro version of the same logic. So here's your final rule. If your payment strategy doesn't aggressively reduce the principal, you're not paying off debt, you're renting it. And if you rent debt long enough, the debt starts owning your future. This is Coin Conspiracy, and we expose hidden rules.